You want to make sure that your business plans, the things that you do and the things that you improve, that they link up to what your business is about, that they link up to your vision and strategy. And that is where strategic planning comes around. Hello, I'm Tom. Welcome to my channel where we talk about operational excellence in an industrial setting. And today we will be talking about strategic planning. Now, strategic planning, that is a big part of how do we set ourselves up for success, but more importantly, for better future success. I will say there is also a big part, especially if you become strategic and you set priorities, of what not to do, right? So what not to improve in this case. And the same goes for strategic planning. This is not all about improvement. It is about what do we expect to happen during the next period, usually next year, next couple of years. Which parts are we going to work on? What are we going to expect? How are we going to deploy, the things that we expect, the targets that we set throughout the organization? So when we get into this, on a factory scale, this is usually yearly. Now, if you've been following my Infinite Loop, or as will be coming up, my Cycles of Excellence version of that different levels in the organization, they will have a different cadence, right? A different rhythm to how often they need to go through controls, improvement, and strategic cycles. But let's look at a factory level, because that is what most of us will be working with. So to quickly go through the steps, and then we'll go through them in detail, is you need a vision. You need an idea of where are we going to go. You need to know what are the basic goals, what are the expectations of all of our stakeholders. And if we're not at the top owner level, this usually also seriously includes what does the higher level of management want. So we know where we have to go. But this is a long-term strategy. Like, it's not even yet a strategy. It is where do we want to go. Then we take some methods to determine, do we have opportunities for improvement? Where do we see opportunities to expand what we do well, to improve what is going wrong, loss elimination, those types of improvement opportunities. And that is set out into making your objectives. And the objectives, those are really already practical things to work on, to go for. Then part of that is better than what we do right now, but we sort of identify that in the opportunities. So those things go into an improvement plan. We need to know, when are we going to be improving what? And from that follow our performance indicators. The basic assumption is that any of the indicators that you're not going to actively improve, they're going to stay at the same performance level. But you do have to control that with your control cycle, and you're not going to do all of your improvements immediately. So there's also a certain timeline there, right? So the improvements, they get into, when is my performance level expected to go up and by how much? Then, and here is sort of an important part, it is a cycle, especially the ones that I have checked, they are a cycle. There's one point that you will almost never really see on the strategic planning roadmap. That is that you actually also, of course, do the work, right? So here, this is roughly where it goes into the daily practice. Here you do the improvements, you get the results from your processes. Then afterwards, you review them. And from that review, you again go into defining, looking for opportunities. And we start over. So that's, in very short, the strategic planning process. But now let's dive a bit into those steps. When we check for opportunities, what we are looking for is to get a view of within the company, outside of the company, and we're sort of doing a risk and opportunity assessment. Now, that one you probably sort of know under the name of opportunity and threat analysis. It's a very popular one to do this with. The strength, weakness, opportunity, and threat analysis. Another way to do this is to just benchmark within and outside of your company. So when looking for opportunities, we're going to be looking at what do we see that our company is good or bad at, strong or weak. The benchmark really gets that for us as well. So these are very similar ways of looking. But of course, in the SWOT analysis, we definitely also take a look at what's actually happening in the market. Are there developments? Do we see opportunities? Has technology moved along? Do new laws make something impossible or open up new possibilities? So we're going to be looking at opportunities. A big part of this, and neither SWOT nor the benchmark is going to directly tell you that, is that you should be talking to engineers here, especially if you've got more of a technical process. Go and talk to those people who know the process, who work in the process, who work on the process. And a big part of identifying these opportunities is also just to get those good ideas out of your people onto paper, have a discussion, and determine sort of their merit and their likelihood of success. So that is what you do to see where can we improve, or even where do we have to work in order not to decline too much. Then on your objectives, because you now want to make something, right? You want to set and then work on your objectives. And here is an important management criterion as well. We are going to define and then deploy these objectives. So defining the objectives, that is making sure that, and this is management driven, but it is in a Catchball system, we'll come to that in a bit, but you set what are the objectives, what do we think is achievable based on the previous step, and what do we want to do within the next year, the next 1.5 to 2 years, the next 6 months, but we set certain objectives. They, of course, do not all have to be financial, right? You can go for market share, which sort of translates into finance, but you can also go for a better safety culture. So they can be measurable, not so measurable. Of course, any objective that you can measure is a lot stronger, but that they are measurable does not mean they need to be financial. They need to link up to the vision, right? So you define objectives that bring you closer to your vision and are realistic based on your observed opportunities. So then when you have defined what should happen, it's also important to deploy those objectives within your organization, because somebody has got to make it work. Right? So we need to also get the people who are actually going to make these changes, who are going to get these objectives to really happen. We've got to get them on board, get their input. Again, hopefully we already did get quite a bit of their input, but together with them, we're going to make sure that those teams are equipped to do it, are willing to do it, know that they should be doing it, so and they have the resources to do it. That is deploying your objectives. You don't only set them, you also need to make sure that you have the owners within your organization. As soon as you can do that, then you also, well, it's not automatic, that is why it is a step, but the next logical sort of thing is to then also plan out when are we going to make improvements. As I said, not all things are going to be improved, right? Not every performance standard is going to be improved in the relatively short term. So here we are talking about those things that we will improve. In the improvement plan, we really need to know, who's going to do it, when will they be doing the project, what will it give to the results, how are they going to do it, which methods. So we need to have a high level, but with contribution to, beneficial to our objectives that build the vision, idea of when are we going to make the improvements. And then we get to what I said, that KPI level, right? So if we have an improvement plan where we say, well, last year we see a couple of improvement options that we also planned out in time, so then we should end up at a new performance level. the KPIs follow from this, right? So if we have our current standard performance, when are we going to increase that? At the end of these projects. So that flows into how we plan our KPIs. Those KPIs, they also need to be more than just set, they need to be deployed as well. Now, why didn't I split those? Because this 4 KPI setting is quite a common thing, right? You already are used to doing this. But when we're making those KPIs, what is important to know is that we work with a KPI tree. So on a high level, we're probably saying it is the throughput of our factory for a certain line or certain product family, but that also builds on a couple of KPIs linked to the OEE of certain lines, and then that is linked to how we're going to get the improvements through less breakdowns and stuff like that, right? So you have a KPI tree to support the objectives based on the improvement plan. Very important also to have your full yearly review, because quite honestly, the monthly, the daily, the weekly, the monthly reviews, they should be part of your control system more, right? They make sure that you are doing that. They also make sure that you're delivering those projects. At the end of this period, which is usually a year if we're talking factory, then we get our review. That review, very important. How did we do on those KPIs? Get me that performance review. Where did we exceed it? Where did we not make it? How did the teams perform? Did they give the boosts that we were calculating? So we have a performance review. In this, you go much farther than just the improvement plan, because you take all of your performances in play. It will also feed back into where do we now see opportunities, what do we need to do to get closer to the vision. But next to performance, we also want to take a good hard look at our systems, at our more organizational, cultural, systematic things. Because they can also fail. And systems can also be reliable or less reliable, contribute to waste, or have strengthened. And here again, as I said, right, KPIs, objectives, they don't have to be financial. The performance is usually quite financial. The systems, they are something we really need to build as well. In the end, if you want to have a strong and competitive organization, it's a competitive culture, the organizational systems, that is what's going to make the difference. But if you are really good at producing something because you've found exactly the correct settings, that concept of finding the correct settings, making sure that everybody is trained on it, that they have control plans around it, so that system, that is your lifeblood, right? The performance will give you the money you need this year and hopefully next as well, but the systems are what really make you a strong competitive force. Anyway, you review the both of them and the cycle goes on. Hey, this is Tom here breaking in with something from post-editing, mid-editing. I'm still editing it in, but with an extra nice bonus link to the video, because when I showed the preview to my friends at Belt Course, they liked it so much, they said this is going to be part of the course, so maybe you're even watching it like that. But also, they said let's include a little bonus for the fine folks who want to get better at strategic planning. So at beltcourse.com, we've got a strategic planning workshop or a full strategic planning program, and you are getting, with the links down in the description, the comments below, a whopping 15 or even 50%, that's the big 50, discount on being in there. And as an extra bonus from me, I will be participating, or actually teaching a whole number of the facilitated workshops, because that is one of the things that is really cool about the Belt Course system. It is an online system that still does practical work, so you really practice the skills you teach. And that facilitated online practical workshop, I'll be in a whole bunch of them. So if you want to be, you can plan it in such a way that you'll have me as one of the facilitators as well. If you like that, go check out the links in the description below for Beltcore's strategic planning workshop or program. You go sort of through that yearly cycle of looking at what you did, finding new opportunities, making sure that you keep close to the ball by benchmarking inside, outside your company, setting, defining your objectives that are mainly going to be objectives that are being carried out by other parts in the hierarchy, the lower lying, the supporting parts of your organization. You deploy it to them, and with them, you make the improvement plans, and you get the KPIs that also show where the planned improvements have to be. Now, that means that we're actually working on a number of management levels. And as I said, between those management levels, you have to make sure that the supporting, the underlying organizational parts, that they are working to make sure that your objectives are being fulfilled. But also, when you're planning these things, you already want to make sure that they can execute it, right? Nobody is looking for plans that are just not realistic. And that is why everywhere here we have that Catchball system. Up until defining the KPIs. And what does the Catchball system mean? It means that from higher management or the owners, we throw in sort of to the people analyzing the business, this is what we would like, these are the vision. And then they will go and look for opportunities. Okay, we understand the vision or not, so it's already a little bit of a, do we really understand what you want? And then quite quickly they will get their first ideas. They will say, well, if we compare ourselves to competitors, we are weak on these points. So it's probably that there is some opportunity there. We're already way ahead of the whole technology and market here. So if you want to further improve there, only through original research. That is a feedback loop. That means already here we're feeding back. But more importantly, when we get to actual objectives, so based on how likely is it, how expensive will it probably be to make improvements, are we really going to set those objectives? What does it cost to do the objectives? What is the benefit of it? Do we have the resources? And so that goes up and down a bit in a discussion, almost always between at least the two management levels. Sometimes you want to involve the level below as well, and then that's generally the experts that you need. So think of a factory management team, site management team, then generally they will get targets from either the business unit or corporate, whatever is the level above the factory, or maybe it's the one owner. And then you have the site management team themselves who are in communication, but also are in communication with their own team at the factory. So your engineers, your quality people, your production managers. So you have that discussion on what could be possible, what can we achieve. And you do that through all of these phases. Because as soon as we're defining an improvement plan, the improvements themselves, they need to be realistic and okay. Again, we need the resources, which one will we plan first, who will we man them with, all of that. Then putting that into KPIs, the same goes. Now, usually the KPIs can sort of be calculated from it, but when we get into the underlying parts of the KPIs, again, you need to make sure this really works for multiple layers within the organization. And that system of throwing the ball, letting them think a bit about it, them throwing some answers back, you catching it, throwing, that is what is called Catchball. So you will hear that term quite often. This is what we mean with it. And if you follow that whole set, then we have a great way of putting our strategy into action, making sure that we get closer and closer to our vision by applying short and midterm strategic goals and objectives throughout the organization. If you see my videos on the cycles of excellence, the infinite loop, this is basically, this whole thing is the strategic or the visioning cycle. That is where this one comes back in my system. But you will also see this one quite a bit as a sort of a standalone tool. It is key in steering the performance of your organization. So I hope that that clarified the system for you, and I wish you all the best in making your strategic plans and getting that real improvement drive into your organization. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button. Let me know what of this is an eye-opener or maybe raised questions down in the comments. And for now, I wish you the best of luck making your strategy and executing the strategy. But also don't forget to enjoy the continuous improvement journey.